Now, very recently, I purchased shares into A2 Milk company. Now, this is a New Zealand-based company within the dairy industry, and for a long time, this was seen by many investors as a very strong, well-run company with strong growth, which it truthfully delivered for many years. But after several years of incredible growth, it began absolutely plummeting. Investors holding A2 Milk shares were losing at rather rapid rates, and it really kept going on and on. It seemed that despite the company having historical growth in earnings with solid profit margins, an incredible return on equity, and absolutely zero debts, the company continued to fall. Now, quite understandably, many investors started selling. Not many of them wanted to be holding anymore, they were losing faith. And for those that did hold, and for those that bought the shares, they kept losing. Even though a lot of us thought that yes, it's a great company, it just needs time to return, it kept falling. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, Chinese exports absolutely plummeted and came to a halt. Channels such as Daigou sales were cut off almost immediately, which strongly reduced a lot of A2 Milk's profits and revenues. So now I've talked about the issues A2 Milk is facing and whether I think it'll be able to return or not, and I've also talked about some of the fundamentals behind the A2 Milk company, both of which you can click the cards up there and you can watch those videos, but I'd recommend pinning them into another tab, that way you can watch them at the end. Alternatively, at the very end of the video, I will present those again, that way you can click on them just towards the end and watch them. However, in this video, I'm talking about why I personally chose to invest into A2 Milk very recently, being just yesterday, which is the 5th of July when I purchased shares in A2 Milk. Now, I have to apologize for this being the third video on A2 Milk. It's simply just because it's a company that I've been keeping my eye on and watching for some time, and because of that, it has made sense to me to present some of my findings along the way. I do swear this isn't at any attempt of pumping the stock. Obviously, my channel's not quite at that rate right now. The channel audience isn't large enough to be pumping such a huge company. So that isn't at all the purpose, but you can subscribe to help me grow this audience base, not so I can pump stocks, but so you can follow my journey, you can see some of my research and the videos I make when they come out. So for any of you that don't know, A2 Milk Company with the ticker code A2M is a publicly listed, dual listed company on both the New Zealand Exchange and the ASX 50 publicly listed companies. So despite all the things I've said before, the things that make us fearful about the company, why did I, a 17-year-old, choose to invest a good portion of all the earnings I made working throughout my 3-week holiday into A2 Milk Company? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly why now. As I mentioned in my other video, I do think that A2 Milk Company is a fundamentally strong, well-run and well-managed company. And I truly do think that their reason for the collapse isn't at all because of the company itself, which I'm sure many investors can agree on, it's more because of the world's current climates. At the end of the day, I think it's more of a case of when will it return back to where it was, rather than will it return back to where it was. So in my eyes, for any long-term investor, all A2 Milk needs to do is to stay afloat until things get better for them. However, once again, it's more when will things get better, how far down the track is it going to be? Because realistically, if it's going to take 15 years, will they be able to survive 15 years without going under? Or if it's going to be half a year, yes, it's likely they will be able to survive until things can recover. So at the end of the day, it's just whether they'll be able to function as a company until things get back to normal. But then on the 5th of July, some good news came out for A2 Milk. Now this is, in my opinion, positive news. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good thing for A2 Milk, but it is in my opinion. You may disagree, and that is absolutely fine. There are reasons to disagree with my points here. But this good news is that they've been given the green light with their proposed 75% acquisition in Matura Milk, which is a New Zealand dairy product manufacturer. And they are data-centric focused, meaning that they offer the best in-class quality guarantee. And that also means that they offer the ability to tailor production to specific requirements. Now this makes me rather hopeful that it can compete well with Fonterra and Open Country, the two main leaders of the dairy industry in New Zealand today. So now, as Raymond Zhang, which is a writer and editor for Rask Media, stated, he believes that along with A2 Milk's market reach, this could be an opportunistic way for Matura Valley Milk to also do well for their own business. And in return for A2 Milk's main line of business, Matura Valley Milk also happens to have a 25% ownership from the China Animal Husbandry Group, which is a subsidiary group of A2 Milk's distribution partner in China. Now this means that the acquisition, in my opinion, can hopefully strengthen relations with their Chinese distributors for A2 Milk, meaning that some of their problems will be solved. So now a large reason for A2 Milk's falling share price is due to the China's moving away from foreign products and the declining relationship with China, ultimately leading to decreased margins. But with A2 Milk acquiring a 75% acquisition with this company that happens to have ownership from a subsidiary of their Chinese logistic partner, it does seem like this issue could be resolved to an extent. And this gives me faith that if relationships with China can strengthen a tiny bit, it will help them get through to mid-2022 when it's expected international travel and borders will open, meaning that A2 Milk will be able to continue Daigou sales, which is one of the main channels of sales for A2 Milk. Now, although this does sound all very well and good, and it's all very hypothetical, it's all very positive, there is also some risk involved. Things are never going to be 100% risk-free. If they were when it came to investing, all of us would be absolutely billionaires. So, unfortunately, there is some risk involved along with the positives that come from this. But in this case, due to so many factors needing to properly line up, it has posed as somewhat of a riskier company to be investing in compared to some of my other choices that I've personally invested in, such as Coles Group, which is very, very solid. It's a bit more of a defensive company, and some Vanguard ETFs, which are more diversified and have a broader market diversification, allowing for some safety and therefore less risk. Now, the reason for A2 Milk having all this risk is because it really does rely on all these things lining up exactly how I plan, which isn't quite easy to predict. Obviously, the whole coronavirus pandemic wasn't easy to predict. Really, if you told someone about this 3 years ago, they wouldn't have believed you at all, and here we are right now. So who knows whether borders will actually open in mid-2022? Who knows if this will actually strengthen relationships with China? It's all rather hopeful, and there is some more risk involved. However, with that being said, if things do go smoothly how I've planned in my head, and the whole idea of everything going through properly, there would be also some significant reward available for any investors such as myself. So because of this, I evaluated and developed some form of an exit strategy based on simply just a risk versus reward. So now some may disagree with this, but I've decided to use a 4-to-1 risk reward here. This is because of my circumstances in particular. Not everyone would suit this the same as I have. However, at the point of the reward which I've set myself, which is the stock price doubling, yes, doubling, then I would be willing to sell a minimum. I would need to sell, because I want to stay very disciplined to this, I would need to sell a minimum of half of my A2 Milk shares, technically taking out just the initial investment, and then I will decide to do what I want to do with the remaining capital gains that will be free running. And now I understand this exit may seem somewhat unrealistic, but I'm willing to wait. That's why it is at the whole point of this stock price doubling, because I'm willing to wait. I think this is going to take time. I don't think this is going to be any sort of get rich quick thing. I think this is definitely going to be a slow and steady wins the race sort of situation, and I'm hoping we can see some returns when border reopenings happen. So that's the reward side, and that's what I'm hoping for. However, there's also the risk side to consider. And the risk side I have is a stop loss set at a 25% loss. Now, when this sells off automatically, then I'm going to reevaluate whether I want to purchase back in, maybe at a better price, or whether I want to stick away from A2 Milk because I've lost faith in the company. So I just think that at this 25% loss, I'm more than happy to take on that risk, even though at my age it is rather significant in my opinion, but at the same time I don't have any bills to pay, so I'm more than willing to put this on the line for the hopeful reward. So now I purchased A2 Milk at a limit price of $6.71, meaning my stop loss price is set at $5.03, which is just below the 52-week low of $5.04, which the stock price saw just recently in May this year. But if possible, I'll be taking profits at $13.42, which is rather nicely below the 52-week high of $20, which does give me some hope that we may easily see some prices return to just this $13.42 mark. And so since I purchased 150 shares at the price of $6.71 each, that means that I purchased $1,006 worth of A2 Milk company shares. Now that means that if the stock price goes down and then my stop loss is eventually triggered, I'll lose $252 worth of my investment, and if I take profits at the price that I'm hoping for, which is when it doubles, I'll therefore be making $1,006. So now the monetary value of this risk is just $252. Some of you may not see that as a huge loss if I do lose it, however some of you may see it as a huge loss. Everyone's different, everyone's circumstance is different, but for me, I do see this as a little bit significant of a loss if it does happen. However, at the end of the day, it's not the biggest of deals because it's a bit of a learning opportunity for me. I'd rather lose $252 now while I'm still a teenager, I have no bills to pay, rather than losing potentially thousands later in life when I have a bit more money and I have things that I need to be purchasing. I have expenses, I have bills to pay, and I have a mortgage or rent to pay. I'd rather now have to lose that money and learn from it rather than lose it later in life. And alternatively, if I double my money, I'm not going to be complaining, obviously. So for this, I think that that works well for me. There's almost no reason I can see myself needing to sell before either of these things occur, unless there was some external sort of factor involved, or if something went horribly wrong with the company that is completely against my idea of investing in it and it changes the whole course of my choice to invest. Now, I'd seriously appreciate some advice. I don't really want to change this plan, but I'd always appreciate some feedback or advice, whether it be on my stock investing, whether it be something I got wrong, whether it be something to do with the video that would look better or present better. I'd really appreciate it. Of course, as long as you're in a nice manner, I always do appreciate it, read it, and I'll often reply as well and say thank you, because it does mean a lot to me. I've made a lot of changes to the channel simply because of comments before. So I'd appreciate that. Of course, I don't appreciate when things are more insulting me or anything. At the end of the day, that doesn't really emotionally affect me too. But of course, I'm not going to take things on board when it's more just having a go at me. But I will take it on board when it's in a nice manner, giving me some sort of feedback. So now if you've made it to this point of the video, thank you very much. You've made it to the end of the video. I'd appreciate if you can hit the thumbs up button down below to like the video, which will hopefully share it to some more people on YouTube to find my channel, which will help me out, and I'd be ever so appreciative of that. So thank you very much. And if you're interested in watching those other two videos, make sure you click the buttons that are going to be on the screen right about now.